Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here with the full build video of the Ju-88A-4 in 1/48 scale by ICM. So this kit was pretty good, to be honest, although I had some issues with it later on, but I think they were user error, but I might be wrong on that. Anyway, the kit comes in this open top box that you need to open to reveal all the sprues and the instructions, which are all packed very nicely. The instructions are very clear and really helpful, and the coloring guide is not weird at all because of course you have a actual colored guide at the end, and you have the names of the colors for multiple brands if that's what you want. The decals were also impeccable on this kit. I'm starting to build the actual interior of the kit. This is some sidewall detail that will go on one of the main fuselage pieces, and I'm going to also build up one of the chairs or seats for one of the pilots or gunners. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but the kit was pretty nice. The cockpit was especially the best part, and it only got downhill from there in my personal experience with this kit. Although you would probably have a different experience.
Drum will ich auf immer den Sorgen absagen und will mich auch nimmer mit Grillen mehr plagen.
Here you can actually see the sidewall detailing come into place with me gluing one of the actual side panels into place, and if I'm not mistaken it's actually the one which I previously put together with a couple of pieces, and there's also some more detail that will go on there like a fire extinguisher and some other smoke rippling.
Sie tut mir allein am besten gefallen. Ich sitz nicht alleine bei einem Glas Weine, mein Mädchen dabei. Die Gedanken sind frei, es bleibt dabei. Die Gedanken sind frei.
Moving on with the build, I'm actually going to focus my attention on the tail wheel of the aircraft, which was a very nice and easy singular part to put on there, very nicely molded, and no issues over there. Also continuing with the side crippling, more detail is being added as we speak, with it being the chair that I put together previously. So this is the other side detail for the other side of the fuselage, of course. And this was, of course, another easy process with some other pieces that had to be put into place, but they were no hassle whatsoever. Moving on to the main quote-unquote section of the fuselage, you can see I already masked some stuff off, and I keep building the chairs up because there's quite a few chairs, and this is also the base of one of the chairs that I will need to be putting in the aircraft.
Heute was kommt von draußen rein, holla hi, holla ho, wird wohl mein Feinstückchen sein, holla hi, ho. Geht vorbei und schaut nicht rein, holla hi, holla ho, wird's wohl nicht gewesen sein, holla hi, ho. Leute haben's oft gesagt, holla hi, holla ho.
And you can see just how small and annoying this chair can be, but it builds up quite nicely, and I'm really proud of the final result. Now to move on to something a bit more exciting and more on other people's taste, which is of course painting! We all love good old painting, which is, well, priming here with some dark color. Oh, it's not quite black, but you know, I like priming my models in this color. It brings out the detail, quote unquote, even though the actual model will be a German gray interior, so it looks more or less the same, but I really enjoy just seeing how well the paint is being sprayed on at the right consistency when I finally hit the right consistency, because there's those times, well, everyone knows that, you don't get the right consistency and you're not happy with the result, and you just have to spray another layer over it, and it's really annoying really fast.
Weiß mir ein schönes Schätzelein mit zwei schwarzbraunen Äugelein, die mir das Herz.
So the priming was a success. Now to put on some very very small and tedious decals on there, you can see that I've done some brush painting, which turned out okay-ish, and the instrument panel is absolutely pristine, of course. Now moving on, this looks also very nice. You can see I've done all the small buttons there, and I tried to make it as lively as possible. Now time for my favorite technique, sponge chipping. I like it because it's very fast and it doesn't consume much time. I'm very lazy. Anyways, it gives out a very very nice result, so that's nice. And it's always good to give out a nice result with some very easy techniquing, but of course you need to go over it with the brush most of the time, because some of the chips will be either in the wrong places and you will need to refine them with a brush to make them have sense.
Sie tut auch unseren Herzen gut. Auf jeden Fall ist Volksmusik international in unserer Schweiz und Südtirol.
My sponge chipping blabbing out of the way, this is the cockpit, and I think I did a brilliant job with the chipping and with the overall building of the cockpit. I don't think I've overdone it in the slightest, maybe in one area, but there's no area where I'm actually unhappy, so please leave your opinions down in the comments. I feel like I did a very good job. Now, showing the two fuselage halves together brought no issues. Almost. I did break off those small railings or whatever they are down there, but except for that, there were no present issues in the entirety of the fuselage. Maybe one or two small gaps, but they were easily filled with some Tamiya-paki. Now, some detail was inevitably erased, but I don't have the proper rescribing tools, so I just didn't bother with it. I did try to use my hobby knife to rescribe some of the lines, but that did not really go as planned every time. Now, the tail stabilizers, they are actually really nice to put together. They fit together like a glove, and there's no issue whatsoever here. Of course, there were a couple of very small seams on the flaps, but they were hidden right behind the actual stabilizer, so that was really nice.
National in unserer Schweiz und Südtirol. Musiziert wird überall. Auf jeden Fall ist Volksmusik international. In Deutschland oder Österreich, nirgends klingt sie gleich.
The wings required a bit of help to keep them together, but they were overall very easy to put together, and I didn't encounter any issues here either.
Urig flott vorgespielt, ein Jochitzer erschallt. Das ist Musik aus Österreich, die an jeden freut. Wo immer auch Musik erklingt, wo man Lieder singt, dort ist das Herz zu Haus. Auf jeden Fall ist Volksmusik international in unserer Schweiz und Südtirol.
Here I'm just looking at the result, and I'm really proud of it.
International in Deutschland oder Österreich, nirgends klingt sie gleich. Von jedem Land ein kleines Stück dieser guten Volksmusik mit Gefühl und viel Gespür.
Now the tail fin and the tail stabilizers were actually very nice and easy to put together. They had their own spots to go inside, and they would just stay there no problem at all. And this is the part where it all goes to hell. So I actually put the wings on and realized that on both sides there is a ginormous gap that needs filling. And when I say ginormous, I mean that big, and that's really, really bad. And I don't think this was on my side either. You can see how big the gap was. Maybe I did something wrong, but I really just think that's the kid's fault here. You can see I filled it up, but it will still be a bit noticeable in the final result. I tried my best, and I think I did all I could for it. Another thing I did was fog up some of the glass pieces, which I don't really know how it happens, is I was really careful around them. And it was not these pieces that you're seeing right here, it was actually the main cockpit pieces and the bubble in front of the actual aircraft, which is glass. I actually had issues with those pieces. I don't know how they fogged up. I just put a smidge of glue on there just to help them stay on. They were mostly friction fit, that's how good the fit was on them, so I had no issues there. But, you know, maybe some of the fumes got stuck. I'm really confused, but all of the pieces right here, they had no issue whatsoever. Maybe a tiny bit of fogging, but it's not visible. Already started with a more pleasant part, that being the landing gear of the aircraft, so this went together smoothly in a couple of pieces and there were no real issues here. Everything went perfectly and the fit was awesome, so this is one of the parts that I actually enjoyed a lot of the kit. Now to put in more stuff on the underside, that being this piece right here and the landing gears. Now, moving on to the bomb pylons, I've actually put this on the aircraft, but there are no bombs attached. Partially because I wasn't going to do bombs, and partially because if the aircraft is displayed with an open engine, why would it have bombs on it? Now as you can see, I've put on more of the covers and there are other gaps right there, which is unfortunate, though they were filled. You can see that one right there is a bit sloppily filled, but it was sanded down later down the way. And now for the air brakes, I actually put one of the air brakes in an open position and one in a closed position, which serves no actual purpose except for maybe adding some more visual interest. And now for the engine, for the propellers. So as you can see, I've shaded the aircraft with the whites and a bit of brown, and I've also primed it black. I also masked off some of the pieces which were exposed, and I was ready to put on some of the other canopy. And that bubble right here that you saw a couple of seconds ago on the front was actually had a bit of an issue with the fogging and also the main canopy piece, which I didn't put glue. I only put a drop of glue, so maybe that drop was enough to fog it up. You can see that part of the underside is already painted in a sky blue color, which is because I was testing out the paints to see if the shading would work, and I applied really thin layers and I saw it working, so I decided to leave it at that and and do the rest on camera. So starting off with the painting, I actually used Dunkelgrün by Revell with some Anthrazit, also by Revell, for the darker color, but I started with and sprayed very thin layers over the shading to make it pop, and in the end it all worked out. So you can see the layers are a bit wet. The paints by Revell are not really meant to be airbrushed, so they're not that great, but they do the job. Now, the darker color may not be fully visible on video, but I assure you it's there and you will see it in the end result. At first, I actually thought I have done it a bit too dark, but then I asked around and found out that it's actually good, and actually I got the color right. So the propeller was also sprayed with the same mix of the dark green, and it was also not primed because I was too lazy to do it. Now painting the underside with the same Revell sky blue color, it turned out pretty well and the shading got through, so I didn't have worry about that. Although, unfortunately, the shading for the underside is not that visible, so maybe I could have done the layers a bit more thin. Here you can see the contrast between the dark gray and the light gray, and also the open engine, which I did a video on my channel. You can go watch it. As for the first varnish, I will be using this Vallejo gloss varnish to seal my paint job in and to keep everything intact for the next steps. Now, as I said earlier, the decals were amazing, and unfortunately these are the only decals that I filmed, but there were a bunch of decals and they all were very nice, though some of the bigger ones did break on me, but I managed to put them back together. Now this is a bit after I applied all the decals and the second varnish, which was a Humbrol matte varnish. I also removed all the masking tape, and now I am doing a panel line wash with some Abteilung oil paints. After doing the panel line wash, I decided to do some streaking and some small oil stains on some of the parts where the fuel would go in, and that's exactly what I did with oil paints, and I also used some acrylics in some situations. Now for the final touches, which are some Revell aluminum colors for some light chips on the fuselage. I will be concluding this Ju 88A-4 in 1/48 scale by ICM. So thank you all for watching and be ready for the final images. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'm sorry I'm a bit late with the upload.